Hello and welcome to episode 33 of Rigor Mortis Paranormal. Tonight's episodes are so hot off the press we didn't even have time to name them, so chop that turd short, grab a beer, and get comfortable. I am David, this is Robert, Jasmine, Ian, Kory, and Halloween Mike.
Yeah.
Hello.
What's happening?
Thank you. I already had a tramp stamp done.
Oh man, imagine that.
There was room. All caps.
It fit in the center.
Actually, the stories are going to be kind of cool today. They're going to actually be told as they were told to them, and no reading off papers or phones or laptops. It's just coming straight at you. And we also got our final story that we have from the Paranormal Fest.
Yeah.
What is it? The Dragon's Breath or the Mist of the Dragon. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Certainly not least.
We're trying
Also-
we're trying to fit that on the last episode.
Something we haven't had in a long time.
What?
Good old Ian Cito's back with his
Oh,
suffering nuts.
Gotta get drunk today.
Dare I dream?
Hey, this is what we all been waiting for, man. You got people like really tuning in now. Like, did you say sobering thoughts from Ian? Hold on. I'm not coming in today.
I've been drunk for a whole year. Waiting for you to sober me up. Well, oh man, this one will really sober you up. Let me tell you.
Boy, yeah, that's what I can't wait for that. And then David, I think we're gonna get lucky with our.
Oh, we'll see if we have time. If we have time, we'll do the.
Man, we're gonna
we'll do
make
the
time.
stories,
Yeah.
Because I think we got a lot. It's pretty action.
It's action packed. I think you guys are gonna love this one also, man. Thank God. We'd like to do our bar hopping session. We're hoping to get. We just haven't had no feedback from that. From haunted bars here in San Antonio and surrounding areas, possibly. Hopefully, we can get a episode out of that, and
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
yeah, that would be awesome,
would, man.
So
San Antonio's got a few haunted bars.
yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah, and you know, especially all the ones on Somerset. There's so many killings that happen down there.
Yeah.
But it's weird, man.
And then he was hit by a car.
Ramflas. Ramflas, remember him?
Why is that name familiar?
Well, okay, back in the day, this was in the 80s. This is when they were talking about Peabody, remember all that?
Yeah.
Okay, on New Laredo, this is a big street out on the south side of San Antonio where we grew up at. Man, there was this, he was a kind of homeless guy. He rolled around with shopping carts, and he had the flags and everything in his car, like, you know, blankets and everything, cans. Man, everybody knew who Ramflas was. And yeah, he tried putting the bite on Anita, the lady next door. She was an old lady.
Oh, yeah.
She had like purple and orange hair.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Ready for action, too.
Yeah.
Remember, she was like 80 and she wore miniskirts.
Yeah. Yeah, raising legs, man. Just like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think he.
It'd be more like
Well, yeah, he would like kind of stop by and like give her a plastic rose he found somewhere, just cleaned it up a little bit, and like you know, he would stop by. I guess, but it was weird. Like he was trying to court her, and she would. I don't know if it was just luck or maybe she was lonely too. She'd come out, you know, she'd be waiting, you know. But anyway, the love story ended because New Laredo Highway, it's not a highway, but it's a fast street. The cars go kind of quick on there, right? But they call it New Laredo Highway, but you go over there, it's like, well, I mean, it's what, like
or
45, yeah. Back in that day, because you had all the beer joints down there.
That was a lot of them.
So I think it even happened during the day is he got hit by a car, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it big time. Like all his shit was spread all over there. I know that sounds kind of fucked up, but yeah, it was literally all shit. Yeah, but like yeah,
It was all shit.
But yeah, man, he got and the love story ended there. You know, like she would wait in the front, and there was no one dropping off roses no more. So I just felt bad because the guy was he really always mind his own business. He would just stroll down the.
Man,
But
that's messed up.
I don't know why he was brought that up.
Ramflas.
Ramflas. You know, sound like flautas in Rápago. Lightning flautas. Rápago flautas. I'm sorry, David.
I was thinking about getting hit by a car, man. It was I don't know if you remember this. It was back in our Whataburger days when we were younger. When we used to work at Whataburger. We were 16, maybe. There was that big girl. I don't know. A whole bunch of us got together. We were gonna start drinking or something, and
She got hit and got
Already
back
sounds
up.
bad.
She got hit by a car though, but yeah, she was big. She was I don't know.
The car got hit by her.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
was
the
weird,
engine block fell out and everything.
She was
The guy came out bloody head and face. And she just She got hit and she
She got
got
hit
up.
by a car. She just jumped up and ran across the street. She was embarrassed more than anything. And the guy got out of the car and he was like had his hands in the air like shaking his fist at her.
So one guy just said,
It's gonna pay for my bumper.
look what you did in my Look at my
Looking for her
hood.
ID. Come back, come back.
Jumping over gates like a
But I remember
jackrabbit.
everybody's looking like, what the hell? What are you doing? It's like, are you okay?
The
Like, what's
Yeti,
going
she
on?
got back up.
She's like, no, I'm good. I'm fine. It's all like, let's go, hurry.
I just got hit by a car.
Like Bigfoot getting back up.
That's actually what it looked like. It looked like
Imagine we're scared.
Ran into the woods. Oh, Jesus.
Man, I remember that, man. Like everybody was freaking out. Like, what the fuck? She just got hit by a
got hit
car.
by a car. Shouldn't we call the ambulance or something?
All right. That, you know what? That was a crazy neighborhood. Me and Steve, let me see, I might have been about 10 or 11, and Steve was a year younger than me, 2 years. And we were playing in the front yard, and this guy comes over, and he's, first time I ever saw a Carmen Kia. What's it, you know, the VW.
Yeah, VW cars, yeah.
And you guys can edit this out because it's pretty messed up. But anyway, the guy stops and he's like calling us over to the. And we're stupid kids. We run over there, and then he goes, "Hey, can you tell me where we're?" And we're like, "Man, I can't hear the guy." So we got to get closer. He goes, "Yeah, I'm just looking for." And he's talking real low, and then so we get all the way to the window on the passenger side, and we're like, "What's that in his hand?"
Oh.
Yeah. What's that? And it was like, honest to God, it was like a flesh-colored beer can. And we're like, oh no.
Why are you doing that?
And we're like, me and Steve look at each other like, we're boys. You know, like we don't get it at all. And so we walk away from the car and we walk inside instead of run and tell Dad, hey Dad, there's a guy out there, and his penis, I guess, was in his hand, and man, Pop just jumps out and I'm gonna go get this fucker, you know, and he took off running, and then the guy takes off, and then Pop jumps in the car and goes looking for him, and he couldn't catch him, and the guy got away.
Ooh, that guy got lucky. That in those days, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my
He's like,
God.
yeah, it was unhinged.
Go call your other brother. They come out with Dad.
You really want a boy?
Yeah, come here, goddammit. But man, the '70s, man, that's what
That was
we're
a weird
talking
time.
about
That was
too,
a weird
man.
time.
Here we go getting glory holes. I mean, we had it all, man.
And actually, that's not. I don't want to do it again, but there was another time walking home from the movies, and the same thing. Some guy tried to pick me up, I guess, to give me a ride home, and then I start to get in the car, and then I was like, oh, really again? And he's like, you know, well, I just like sex and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to just walk home. That's weird, man.
Climbing back down.
Yeah, like, never mind, I'll walk.
Well, Jack was asking if you're a good-looking boy.
No, apparently I was a boy with a nice-looking ass, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about his face. I didn't see that, but that ass.
I'm just saying them jeans are doing it for me.
Those Tuscans, man. Oh, I'll tell you what.
I was going to say Jordache.
There's a reason.
I never had Jordache. I did have Tuscans.
There's a reason they got the patches on their knees there, right? That's for the kids. The perverts, that's what they look for, right?
Oh,
No one's going to get that. And those who were born in the, grew up in the 70s, because they did. That's what the kids would actually rough up their knees, but the predators got that for something else.
Exactly.
I got some knee pads in the back.
Oh, that's gross, man.
Oh, we got way off subject.
You know, but I got picked up one time too, walking
I
into.
think I almost did.
But when we worked at Whataburger too, but I was brand new. I had just started working there. I only been there for a few days, and maybe not even a week. And I remember the guy's name was Robert. No, not his name. But the guy, he was a manager there at Whataburger, And I could have swore it was him. I was actually walking from high school to Whataburger, which is about 8 miles. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah.
We walk a lot, man.
We did it back then.
Good shape,
But,
right?
No, but I remember I was walking and the car pulls up next to me. He's like, hey, he pulls up and he's like, you need a ride? And I'm like, oh man.
You need a penis?
I know. I need a boyfriend. But I'm like, I'm thinking, that's Robert. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, yeah, dude, whatever. I hop in the car, man. I close the door and he's like, where do you work? I'm like, right there, the Whataburger. It's like, and I'm like, why are you asking me where I work? I'm like, and I look at the guy and I was like, man, you look just like this guy. And are you Robert? And he's like, no. I'm like, oh shoot. I'm like, man, I just got in the car with a stranger, man. And I was like, man, I know. I was like, man, you look just like this guy that I work with. His name is Robert, and he's a manager there. And
does he suck cock too?
Same penis and everything. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, Dave.
Just like, zip, and I'm like, yeah.
You guys could be twins.
Y'all related, man. But how did you get out of that, man?
Well, no, he took me straight there and dropped me off.
That's nice, man.
No, I don't.
Like
think
a gentleman.
No, I think what saved me was that I told him he looked exactly like somebody named Robert, and he probably just thought, oh shoot, this guy's gonna be able to ID me because I look like somebody.
I guess I'll kill him.
Yeah, no, let me drop him off and do the right thing. Because other than that, man,
be a gentleman.
Yeah, no.
Oh, man.
Doug might be wearing a dress right now. I don't know.
Oh my
But
god.
man,
That's all on the south side, man.
yeah, we got
Yeah.
chased by that van.
Yeah.
It was Jamie, me. Yeah, it was. I think we told the story before. It was me, you, and Chanclas.
Chanclas, the big boy.
Yeah, and for being that size, man, I'm surprised he wasn't.
6'4", even at 16.
He was scary.
300 pounds.
12.
Yeah, intimidating looking.
Yeah, but he was hauling ass, man. I mean, he just
fast.
we were running on our tippy toes and we were running fast. But all we see is this like white blur road through. And fast too. And he's just like. But the guy did scare us, man, because he was hauling ass and slamming on his brakes and yelling at us. And I'm like, man, that's not cool, man, because it was in the middle of the night and I didn't know what the hell was going on, man. But we always ran into shit like
Were
that.
you trying to get at you guys or what?
We don't know if he was just fucking around or something,
but he was riding through the whole the park like a baseball field. I think it was a van too. It was like a white van with the small round windows, of course.
Yeah, he had the hot rod. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, come on here, boy. No, but we were crying when we were running, man. It's just like, son, don't cry. You can't breathe right when you cry.
Hey, I've been there, man. Don't cry. Don't shit.
That's scary though, man. And now we look back at it, it's funny, but man, we never know, man. Shit.
Anyway,
where we at? What do you say, fellas? We get on with the.
Listen to what is it? Mist of the Dragon.
Let's hear the spray of the wino. Let's hear that.
My name is Rob. I live in Eastland, Texas. Back in 2009, around December, a friend of mine from a long time ago, when I lived in Virginia back in 2004, he had passed away December 15th, and we called him Bear. And I'd lost contact with him. I hadn't talked to him ever since we left in around 2005 and came to Texas. I was always into the paranormal, and I always wanted to watch videos of paranormal encounters and capturing video footage and pictures and stuff like that. I would always be up at the middle of the night, usually when I should be asleep, for work the next morning. I just had that addiction. I'd be up at night and I'd be watching videos and looking at photographs and being fascinated. And one particular night in mid-December, I was watching videos. My wife at the time had gone to sleep, and it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And watching the videos and looking at the photographs, I started having those little anomalies, little experiences that you have, seeing objects or movements in the corner of your eye, like people talk about with shadow people or some sort of spirit activity. I was having this experience, and it would happen a couple of times, but I was convincing myself, I'm hyping myself up, I'm psyching myself out because I'm watching videos, I'm looking at pictures, so I just ignored it and continued on, but it continued to grab my attention. So I started getting frustrated. I said to whatever was in the air out there, I said, look, if you're there, quit screwing around with me. Just let me know that you're there and get it over with. So I put that out there, I let it go, and I went back to checking out some photographs. And next thing I knew, I'm sitting right, because my computer is like right next to the back of the couch. So when I'm sitting there at my computer chair, my arm is leaning on the back of the couch. As I'm sitting there, I get this strange sensation that an entity, like perhaps, I got the impression of like a small little girl, jump onto the couch cushion and throw put her face right close to mine. And that just tripped me out right there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed. All right, shut it down, went to my bed. My wife was asleep in the room, so I get in bed. I'm lying there in the dark, and I'm getting the urge to look around because it's still nagging at me. So I get up, I kind of scan the room, and in the corner of the room, I see what appears to be this abstract mist form, kind of like floating in midair. It wasn't so much of a human figure, but more of just kind of like smoke floating in air, like a slow pace, and it's just kind of eerie, but it's fascinating. And I was transfixed on it. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I'm looking at it, then I'm like, I think I see a ghost, or I see something. I'm like, I need confirmation. I need to know that I'm not just tripping balls. So I wake up, my wife at the time, and I said, babe, I need you to wake up. I need you to look at something. Tell me what you see. Right over there. She gets up, rubs her eyes, does that whole thing, and they're like, what? Looks over in the corner, and then she does a double take. And she's like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, you see it too? I'm like, yeah, it looks like some sort of a mist. Something moving in the corner. So we're looking at this thing, and we're totally fascinated. And she's seen paranormal stuff her entire life, especially shadow figures, like shadow people. She talked about waking up in the middle of the night and seeing one come towards her from the crack in the door, in the light. And then like when she tries to get a look at it, it flies up into the ceiling and disappears. Typical encounter of a shadow person. But this one right here, this particular experience that we were having, we were both like, wow, this is awesome. So we're watching this, and it starts moving. It starts pacing back and forth from wall to wall in front of the closet all night, slowly. And it starts showing like these little sparkles in a way. I can't really describe it, but it's kind of like glittery in a little way, but vague, very faint. But you can see it if you look. And it's going back and forth all the way across. And we're watching this thing for like 2 hours. Talking about it, and it's going back and forth, and we're watching this thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, I gotta see something, and I sit up straight in the bed, and I put my arm out, offering it to touch me. It came forward, touched me on the wrist. It looked like a tentacle, like a squid or an octopus type tentacle coming forward. No hand, just a tentacle. And it touched my wrist, and it didn't feel like a human touch or any type of physical touch. It just felt cold. I can't explain. It's just cold, little cold breeze touching my wrist right there at that spot, very isolated. And it went back to the corner. And when I did this, I'm like, I'm taking a risk. I don't really know what its motives are. I'm just gonna throw caution into the wind and just do it. And when it did it, it's like it was very friendly, very benevolent, and it just went right back to the corner and started going back, pacing again. And then after about another half an hour, it stopped in the middle of the room, like right there in the middle, in front of the closet door. And next thing I knew, it changed shape. We saw it shape shift, and it formed of a face with a beard and a full head of hair. And you can see the outline of the eyes and the nose and the mouth. And that's when Val said, shit. She went like, okay, I've seen enough. I'm going back to bed. That thing just shifted and showed a face. All my life I've wanted to have a paranormal experience, to see ghosts. This is the one time in my life that I did. But after a while, it's like I wasn't. The entire time I was not scared. The 2-3 hours that I was watching, I was not scared at all. I came to the realization, I'm like, I got a couple hours left. I need to get some sleep because I got to go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I actually left it alone and I went to sleep. And when I woke up the next morning, of course, it was gone. Late last year, I started looking up my old friend Bear. And I couldn't find an address, couldn't find any information for him on Facebook or anywhere on social media. And by this time, he was like in his mid to late 60s. So I said, okay, I can't find him on social media. I can't find him anywhere, so I'm going to start looking up obituaries. So I started looking up obituaries. I couldn't find any until January. And by January, I found an obituary of him that he had passed away in December 15th, 2009. It didn't say from what, but I knew he had health problems. But he passed away at the age of 61. That was around the same time that I saw that encounter. Take it for what you will. It's my experience and mine alone, but I'm happy to share it with people. Thank you.
That sounds almost like a goodbye story, don't it?
He was saying, he said he almost verified that it was his friend that he saw.
Yeah, through the book, I guess he kind of realized that, okay, there's something here, and that's got to be my friend. I mean,
I'm saying this the wrong way. I don't know how to say it. They got a sack on him staying there that many hours.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'd have been gone. I would have been out of the house.
And then the other one saying, well, wake me up if something weird happens. Something weird has happened right now, babe.
Yeah, right? Room in the bed if they get tired.
Yeah.
Like, we can't do that.
Well, if he does another trick, wake us up.
But that was like 3 hours later, though. I mean, I think
Why
after
don't you
3
just
hours,
come out the first 10 minutes? Wake up at 8.
Right?
Just kidding.
Babe, wake up. He's balancing a ball on his nose.
Oh, that bear.
That haunted bear.
well, even the guy is like, I gotta go to work in a while.
Come on, dude,
Bed already.
Yeah, but he talked about also that energy ball of light, or like that light show that they give. I've heard this before also in certain hauntings too, that they do see stuff like that. It's weird, but he said it kind of developed into a face of his friend, which is crazy, right? Because he said he had a beard like yours. Actually, he had a sweet ass like yours too, Kory. Just like Kory's blushing. But that's what I'm saying. It's just weird though, because I would freak out on that. First of all, I mean, shit. Yeah,
we're taking pictures and videos, and everything.
I mean, it's so easy.
Did we even ask him? I don't remember. I don't think we even asked him if he had any. We should have.
No kidding.
But there was such a long line at that event, man.
It was nuts. It was
crazy.
packed out. Yeah.
But awesome, man. That's an awesome story. And if you did get any photos, man, please send them in. We'd love to use those, man. Please. Rob, thanks for that story. It was awesome.
God, yeah.
Rob,
very awesome. Yes,
I remember that name. Yes, nice name. I'm saying this right now, the story that the Halloween Mike's going to say, and I'm hoping it's still cool.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It is hard to take a lot of these photos and videos on face value, except I sent you guys a photo, and it's, I work in a hospital, and there's like 5 chains of the hospital in San Antonio. And so figure out which hospital that is. But the main, when it first started, the main hospital downtown, it was a very old building. And in fact, now it's just mostly for education, and so that way we can keep up our CPR and ACLS and stuff. And the only reason I would give the picture that you guys got, and hopefully it's on your site, is
it will be.
It will be. It's awesome.
Is because the guy that took it, we know him, and he's actually a straight shooter. He's not a bullshitter. He really isn't. And he said what it was is way back, I want to say like 30s and 40s, some of the nurses actually wore black.
That's what their uniforms are?
Yeah, they were black. Because I said, I don't think that's a nurse. And because they have the nurse hat. I want to say that nurse hat is white, right, in the picture?
Yeah, with the little red cross, right?
Yeah,
is that what it is?
or something. Yeah, old-timey. But the uniform is like black and white. And my thing is like, I believe him because we know this guy. I mean, I don't know if he'd appreciate me saying his name on there.
No, it's all good, yeah.
But he said that this stuff really happened. And he goes, they hear stuff all the time. They hear all kind of crazy stuff that happens in this building when they go in there and clean, especially at night. And when he was saying, oh, yeah, that one comes out every once in a while. And this one time it just kind of lingered. So he said he pulled out the phone, he took a picture of it, and boom.
So he saw it when he took the picture?
Yeah. Oh, no.
So he was looking at it and he took the picture.
He was like, oh, check it out. What's that?
I thought he was just took the picture randomly and it came out.
Oh, no. He was like, what's that? And they were like, wow, that looks like a I don't know what it is. And then he was like yelling at it and so, hey, what's up? You know, and then nothing happened.
How long was it?
This happened, I want to say maybe over the summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was...
This picture looks creepy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now.
Well, when he told me about it, I'm looking at the picture. I was like, "Oh shit," you know. But yeah, it's just freaky.
Yeah,
but he goes, "Nobody at night. Nobody's in that building." And the freaky part, really, about this is on the bottom floor of that, in the basement, actually. And I've been there at night because sometimes we have to, for whatever reason, we're the ones that have to take the bodies to the morgue, and the morgue is actually across the street. And yeah, I know. And we have to take this little walkway thing. Yeah, it really is. Because you're pushing a body across the street in a gurney, and people know what you got, you know. I mean, and then you got to go take an elevator going down, and people get out of your way, man, when you got a body. And then stick them in. Well, one time I was down there, it was like 2 a.m, and that is some freaky ass shit, man. And you know, it may have been cool down there, but just for the sake of the bodies, because they're trying to preserve the bodies. But it's still creepy, man. It's still. I mean, I remember they had all these bins there, like Tupperware bins, and I was like, man, what's all that about? And then later on, the guy tells me, he goes, some of them are like severed limbs, you know, like they can't just throw them in the trash, like cancerous arms, legs, freaky. And he goes, and babies. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. No. They're all... they make a weird soup. No. There are all these different little bits. It's freaky. And I was like, oh, no. You know, I was in there with all those bins and stuff. He goes, oh, no, there's babies there, too. He goes, babies die all the time. They just stick them in the bin. And I go, man, that's just
I mean, most people don't know behind the scenes with all that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's like nothing. The guy's like, you know, when I took the bodies, just put them there. And I'm like, you know, I mean, I've been doing this 26 years, and I've seen probably hundreds of folks die. But it's, I don't know how else to put it, but it's still special. I've been there actually with what they call withdrawal care, take everything off. And I'm like a direct cause of them dying, but they want to die at that point. And it's just weird. It's still, and we have a lot of people that I work with that won't do it. They'll call me or somebody else to do it. I guess because they think we're assholes and won't feel anything. But you do. It's weird. You do feel something.
Yeah.
But I don't get weirded out by it. But well, I do get weirded out by it, but not so much that I can't do it. It's part of the job.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, it's usually either old people or, you know, like, I mean, nothing against junkies, but, you know, people that, you know, have made some serious mistakes in their life. And it's not babies. I mean, I've been in codes before with babies, and I was actually in one where the baby did die, and that did wreck me. That was But old people dying, you know, it's just like, oh, that sucks. But, you know, they were old. Hopefully they had a good run. But
man, they always talk about like PTSD for guys coming back from the war and stuff, but you don't think about
I wouldn't even try to lie that I got. I mean, if I had that, I wouldn't.
Some people could be super sensitive with that. Oh, they probably shouldn't be in that field.
Yeah. No, we have a few of those, but I mean, if I have post-traumatic, whatever, it's only because I'm married.
If I can put it with that, I can do it.
No, but man, I'm sorry, we went off there, but I was thinking about those stories from the hospital because, man, I remember, Mike, you told me some other stories that were...
Yeah, you know, it seems like every hospital has kind of like weird stuff that happens. I guess it'd be like everything you hear about museums and libraries and the old hospital I started with, and they tore it down, and now I'm working at a new hospital. But it had a whole bunch of weird stuff that happened there. In fact, we had a specific room where things would happen. I never saw it, but I had a few friends that did see it. And actually, I also heard of other people who were in the process of dying, a hospital, patients die, and they would see, they said it was little kids, and especially a little girl. And it's weird, whenever they talked about seeing the little kids or the little girl, we knew they were going to pass that night. And even sometimes they didn't even seem all that sick or whatever, but, you know, that being an oncology floor, you know, sometimes just getting the chemo is what took them out. But they would talk about, you know, get them damn little kids out of here, you know, they're so annoying or whatever. And I've had some friends also that saw them. While my one buddy, he was in our what we call CS, our central supply area, which was tucked way in the back of the hospital, and it was creepy because you had to go through all these doors to get there. And then when you got in there, it's like a big room with one dimly lit light bulb. And he said he went in there to go get some supplies to do a procedure in the ER. And he said there was a little girl that was just standing there staring at him. And he goes, "Hey," he goes, "what are you doing back here?" And he said, "At first I didn't snap how she got through 2 locked doors." And he goes, "You know what? I can get you back to your mom if you're in the ER, from the ER." And she doesn't say nothing. And he goes, and the weird part is she wasn't dressed like, old-timey pilgrim or anything like that. She just looked like a little kid. And he goes, "Let me just get all the supplies." So he gets all the supplies together, and he turned, and she was gone. And this guy actually was pretty, you know how sometimes people tell you stuff like that, and you're like, I don't know. But again, this person seemed pretty straightforward. The only thing about it is, before that, everybody that said they saw this little girl, they would die. And so this guy, I still remember the guy's name. I guess I could say there's a million Joshes in the world. But a little after that, he moved to California. And I remember everybody was like, wow, we won't know what happened to Josh, but he moved to LA, so he's probably dead.
Yeah. He was perfectly healthy, though, right?
Oh, yeah, no, he was a young man. Actually, he was like you. Young, healthy. There was nothing wrong with him.
He's an employee?
And he was an employee. He was a EMT. And he was really good at what he did. But he goes, "Yeah, I didn't know about your ghost stories." And then when they told me about the little girl, I was like, you know what? I bet it was the same little girl. And everybody was like, "What'd she look like?" And he goes, "Well, just like a little girl, man." And then, well, what was she wearing? Well, she was just wearing like clothes. I don't know. And he didn't even get into like, it was.
That's her.
Yeah, like some real sexy little jeans. A little hot 8-year-old. No, he basically was like, he was very much, and he goes, and it wasn't like it was cold in the room or anything. He goes, the girl was there, and then he turned, he grabbed the supplies, and then she was gone. And he goes, he wasn't even scared until later we started going on about the little girls, the little kids. It was a little girl and a little boy. It was just very strange.
Did y'all know he even made it to California, or?
Well, he was there for like maybe another week, and then he was gone because we were all like, "Hey, is Josh gonna die?" And
it's nice though.
Yeah, I know. He seems like a nice guy, but oh well. But no, we don't know what happened to him. I don't.
What was that hospital built? Like, is that an old?
Oh no, this hospital I'm talking about was built in the mid '60s.
Which one?
The old hospital that had the little kids.
Okay.
And then, so the new hospital we're in now is probably about 5 or 6 years old. And now we're starting to just now hear little stories about that hospital. And the way it was explained to me is, like, we have some people that work for the system like me a long time. Well, they worked a lot. I've been for a long time. Well, they've been 30 and 40 years. And they said, eventually all hospitals get their stories. Oh, yeah. But their thing is, like, they're just stories. But because they're like me. They don't want to believe that there's like ghosts of little kids and stuff like that. And I'm not saying. I guess that was my point earlier. Is I don't know. I just know that it's a reoccurring thing. You mentioned earlier about shadow people and how it's always the same thing over and over. Well, this is the same thing. So you keep hearing it's 2 little kids. They go into the room right before somebody dies, and it's not always the same people. It'd be new people coming out like, they're complaining about 2 little kids. I don't know, they're being real brats or whatever. I don't know where their mom is, but they keep bugging that poor lady. It's bad enough she's already dying of cancer. Why are they in there? Whatever.
But I can only imagine because you just had said or mentioned that they dump baby bodies.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, but it's just weird. Yeah. Well, no, hopefully they don't just. But it is. They are in. Yeah, they're Tupperware, man.
Not dumb.
But it is kind of dumb.
The baby under my bed. What the hell? There's like regardless, I'm saying like there's babies or stories,
You would think it would be a little more dignified than that.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is weird because I didn't know. They're just stacked up. And you hear, well, that one's a leg and that one's a baby. And it was like, well, that one's a liver and, that's a little baby. And they didn't make it. And I was like, oh, shit, that's a baby.
Yeah, right.
And it's a Tupperware, like that's just. And well, no, they're going to take
So
care of
can
it.
you refuse to take the bodies down? Like if you're
I wouldn't
comfortable
do
with
that.
it?
If it's my patient, it's hard to explain. But if it's my patient, you just, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Maybe you feel like you owe it to them?
Yeah. You take ownership of it, and you just. But my patients are always adults. They're always. I mean, I don't do like ER. Sometimes they were little. Sometimes there was one time. Well, I don't even want to get into it.
So you don't use the Tupperware. You use the Rubbermaid bins.
No, we use bags. We use bags with zippers. I mean, we had to put away a guy one time. He was like 500 pounds. This guy is not going to fit in 2 bags. And they're like, oh, it could be done. It could be done. Okay, then you've never done it before because it can't be done.
So 3 bags?
Yeah, no, there was no amount. He was not going in a bag. Because we took like 3 sheets and wrapped them like a big old taco, and then we got in trouble because they said it was disrespectful.
What I do is get these chainsaws here and start cutting away at these parts. And
Don't you think it would have been more respectable? I could have showed you how to do it. Come show me right now. You take me to school.
But I'm busy.
You know, no, I don't have time now, but I'll show you. I'll show you.
I gotta deal with these annoying children.
Shit, that's crazy.
There was another hospital that I would work at sometimes. It was an old
same
hospital.
franchise or same chain? I don't know. What is it? Same branch, right?
Same franchise, yes. And what is it? This one lady was talking about this one specific room on the floor I was working, and she said that what it was is every time somebody would die, that a demon would come out of the wall and you know, like scare the patients to death. But she was like, there were always evil people that die. And I was like, one, how do you know they're evil? You know, they're dying. You don't know. But the other thing was she started telling the story, and I'm a visitor there because I would, you know, I worked anywhere. I didn't care. And so she starts telling me this story, and she was a long-time employee, and 2 other long-term employees that were sitting with her literally just turned their faces away from her and started scooting away like, yeah, this lady's telling some stories.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I was like, I don't know her well enough, but they were like, I don't think so, you know, so it was pretty weird.
Man.
But, so, I guess what I'm saying is, some of the stories I kind of give a little credence to, and other stories, not so much.
Yeah, they're just so far-fetched.
Like, you know, I mean, she said it was like this evil demon with the worst face you could, and de veras. I saw it in the because we have cameras in the room. I saw the face come out of the wall, and the arms come down, and it was grabbing the man, and he was screaming, and the other girls were like,
the man was no longer there, right? Y'all went back to check on him.
No, he was frozen, like, you know, I'm dead. No, like, he screamed to death. But we were like, yeah, we didn't hear no screams, you know. So I guess what I'm saying is some of the stuff I'm like, the thing with my buddy Josh, I was like, wow, that's freaky. He knew nothing about the little kids, and when he mentioned the little girl, our other friends were like, yeah, we heard of that, but we've never seen them. We've just heard of people complaining about we've had family members that would come out of the room and like, yeah, you know, grandma keeps saying there's some little kids playing in the room, and I don't know what you guys need to do to get those kids out of the room. And we're like, oh, that ain't good.
Like, do you really think I would let it?
Yeah, I know, right? Sorry, the kids come with the room if grandma's dying.
Yeah, grandma, not to worry about it.
Yeah, it was the same room. It was the same room.
It's same day too.
Say your goodbye.
No, it was always the same room.
No, but like if they, the same day they hear the sound, they would pass away.
Yeah, like later that night they would go, and sometimes they were complaining about the room, so they weren't sick enough. But then, you know, back then, I'm going back 25 years ago.
What if the room killed him?
What?
I don't know. I never thought of that. You're right.
Yeah, I should put that room out of
mold.
Well, no, now the
high levels of mold or something in there.
Which that's a whole nother thing.
Asbestos.
The place was cootie filled. So when they blew it up, I'm like, where did all those cooties go? They're like, yeah, we're not in that neighborhood. You know?
Little girl.
Yeah, it's okay. There's a bunch of thugs that live next door to it, so whatever.
They're all bad people.
Yeah, they're all bad people.
They're asking for it.
They're minorities. Now I don't believe that, but that's what they said. But anyway, but yeah, it was pretty.
Why is it always the kids that are creepier, man? I mean, if it was adults,
and actually, they said the kids weren't creepy; they were annoying. They were made a lot of noise. They would run and play and laugh, and people would get upset. Or what is it? I know of one time that they said the old lady was like happy that somebody was there when and they said those kids were playing and it's okay, and you know, I was kind of sad.
Maybe they're trying to bring some sort of comfort,
like
to
joy,
right?
Or you know, they were being a pain in the ass if you were a pain in the ass. I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's true.
Because they would get complaints too.
Yeah.
But
that was 100% every time.
Every time someone stayed in.
Yeah, actually, well, what the story I got was that when my buddy Josh actually heard about the little kids, there were people like, oh shit, you know, like you're gonna die, you know. But like every hospital has, well, I shouldn't say every hospital, but it's
got to be because I'm sure that other hospitals have troubles. I mean, because you see a lot of that shit. I mean, a lot of hospitals that they even have ghost tours on some of them.
Yeah.
That they close down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
true.
And I had just I had read about one. Actually, it's an old story about how this lady, she got murdered, and she was a nurse at way back in '70s in a Chicago hospital. And what she did was when she died, she came back to haunt one of the doctors or therapist wife. And she told him everything. The jewelry was taken from her. She described how the jewelry looked. She said who did it. It was an orderly. I don't know what an orderly is. I figured they don't have those no more. Are those the guys that just hold down patients or what? I don't know what that is.
But, well, we don't really have them anymore.
Yeah, that's what I was
But when we did have them, well, I mean, I guess when we had them, they did that, but
I don't know what
man, you know what? If you
the mop floors or I don't know. I
mean,
don't know
if whatever happens, I mean, I've literally had like them shit on my shoes or puke on me and stuff like that. I mean, we're the ones that do everything now.
Okay,
we do everything. But in the old days, orderlies, they had to
do the shitty jobs then, or
exactly.
Okay.
You could send them in there. Now we do everything. But I guess that's possible.
Well,
you know, and we did have a problem. Even when it was just nurses, people stealing things. We did.
Man.
And we don't know really if it could have been nurses or whoever.
No, this wasn't even that. What it was is an orderly went to her house and murdered and raped her.
Okay.
He murdered and raped her, and she named who killed her. But she told the therapist's wife who it was, what he took, and that he took the jewelry and gave it to his girlfriend.
Damn.
Yeah, so the cops are like, what? And then so she keeps telling me this is what's going on. So the therapist is like, man, I gotta say something because she's a pain in the ass. So he told the cops, and the cops were like, well, it's a long shot. Let's just check it out though. But it sounds kind of far fetched. So they asked the guy denied everything. So they said, well, let's go ask the girlfriend. They say, did you get any jewelry? She said, well, no, he was with me. They asked about the boyfriend. Was he with you at this night? Yeah, he was, this and that. Or he wasn't, but yeah, he came later that night. He was. And did you get any jewelry? He said, well, yeah, he gave me this jewelry. Can we see it? And so the ghost had named what the jewelry looked like. They said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to bring the family. She even said, my family knows how that jewelry looks. So they brought the family in and they checked the jewelry.
That's my Rolex.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, that's her jewelry.
That's crazy.
So they wound up and they brought them back in. They said, even your family's, I mean, even they're saying like her family's saying this is her jewelry. You took it. They said so. Anyway, she got busted. So that's one of those. If you look it up, it's gonna be like how a ghost saved her. Whoa, look at all those burps, man! I was drunk like a mother.
Well, you know what? I'm going. What? Whoa! Wow.
But yeah, anyway, ghost solved her own murder. So that's what that was.
You know, and it's crazy because I got to tell you, for me, I've said it before on your guys' podcast. I tend to be analytical, logical, and everything. And there's things I don't understand. I don't. Dave's here with me. Many years ago, both me and him saw something in the sky that we didn't understand.
It wasn't him.
Who was it?
It was me.
Jesus, it was nice.
I thought you even said it was me. I didn't. I kept saying I don't remember this.
Okay, and I still say it's him. But you know what?
It was in the middle room. They were in the middle room, and they looked, and we were laying on that bed. Well, it was like a little ball that would move like this.
And that was freaky.
Yeah.
And so you kept saying, you got to look at this. You got to look at this. And I'm like, yeah. You know, like, I ain't got time for this.
I got it towards the end. I don't know what it was. I think somebody was like freaking out. And like I felt like I was getting on the bed.
Man, I was like, oh, shit.
And I looked out and I saw that, man.
Yeah.
It was if I remember correctly, I don't know. Maybe we have the same thing.
And see, that's the other thing. I don't even remember which brother it was, but I do remember that little light was moving around fast and very precise. And then it changed colors. And you were like, it's changing colors. And so I'm looking up there and I go, it's not changing colors. And I'm like, oh shit, it's changing colors.
It's like a satellite, right?
It was weird.
But it would move weird though. That's the thing. And I don't know if you remember the streaks. I don't know if you remember that. But to me, I thought it was a little metallic ball. And it could be
honestly, what it was is I couldn't process it. It's so strange. And to me, and especially back then, I felt like whatever I believed in, that is a fact. That is like I'm never going to change my mind. And that was one of the times in my life where I said, this shakes my whole being. Another time was we were at a restaurant and it was mostly gay people. and the young lady that came over and was talking in my ear, I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm gonna say it. I fell in love because I'm like, oh my god.
We'll edit that.
And then it turned out the girl was a guy, and then everyone was laughing at me, and I said, for a half a beat there, I guess I was gay.
At least you're true to yourself.
Yeah, she was very attractive.
Yeah, there's something about kielbasa now that I just cannot let go. Hey, man,
Went around the table and was asking, what do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? And I'm looking at her like, whatever.
I'm a cool glass of you. Tall glass of you, right?
And then she comes to me and she says it in my ear, and then she goes, and what do you want to drink, Daddy? And I was like, oh no. And I go, I'll have a,
They're like, I don't know what's up with my
wine spritzer, right?
Shirley Temple.
Anymore?
No, and then so she walks
I'll have
away.
a glass of hot dogs. That's what you said.
What do you want to drink?
Sausage. You got any kielbasa?
And then, so she walks away. And I'm looking at her and going, God damn.
Look at that ass.
God damn. And then, and my kid and her best friend are sitting across from me, and they go, right, Dad? And I go, what? And she goes, that girl looks just like a dude.
Look at that.
And I go, no, it's a UFO.
Wait, the other way around. That dude looks just like a girl.
Well, something.
All I know is very briefly. I was yeah, well, no, I didn't want it to happen. It happened. There. Now everyone knows.
And that was the day you came in.
And then later on we had sex. It was wonderful.
So you're still Halloween Mike, though.
I was the top. I was a pitcher.
Sobering thoughts or no? Or is it too early in the evening?
Buzzworthy. No, I'm just kidding.
Honestly, I'd like to hear what this. I've been
out there, man.
All right.
Yeah, you know what? I've been drunk for a week.
Quiet down, children.
Take us to school.
Yep.
With further ado, let's hear that. We've been waiting a year. Let's see what we got here.
Hit that play button.
Starting in August 2017, reports came out that there were incidents in late 2016 of American and Canadian diplomats and family members in Havana, Cuba, hearing a variety of sounds. One example being a high-pitched beam of sound, with some of these sounds only being heard in certain isolated parts of the room. People who heard these sounds ended up experiencing a lot of different systems, including a sharp ear pain, headaches, ringing in one ear, vertigo, disorientation, attention difficulties, and symptoms that correlate to mild traumatic brain injury or concussion. The sounds were heard in various different locations, from 2 hotels that diplomats had stayed in to the various homes that they had lived in. Even a few months after the initial reports came out, the best guess was that the symptoms were caused by some sonic or acoustic attack of some sort. There was no evidence of such a device found at the scenes, and the technology required to send these acoustics with pinpoint precision to these people would have been far too large to hide. It wasn't until March 2018 that computer scientists with the University of Michigan came up with a possible cause for the sounds that diplomats and their family members experienced. Professor Kevin Fu and members of the Security and Privacy Research Group believed that 2 sources of ultrasound, when placed too close together, could generate interference that would produce the sounds described by the victims. So it's possible 2 listening devices were placed too closely together in those locations. James Kaysen, a former U.S. diplomat in Havana, said that it explains every aspect of what made this case so difficult to solve. It explains the sonic part, that no one was spotted planting new devices inside the homes, and that doing it from the outside would require something huge. If Fu's theory is correct, it's improper to call what happened attacks, since malfunctioning spy technology would be highly unlikely to be used aggressively. This also explains why Canadian diplomats and their families were affected, since it seems unlikely Cuba would want to hurt their relationship with their #1 source of terrorism. On the other hand, in May 2018, it happened again, at another embassy, in China this time. I think it's possible that if Fu is correct about the initial Cuban attack, air quotes, is that China is doing it intentionally this time. Around this time, the US government decided to do its best to be in a position to catch future attacks before they happened, since a second incident could mean that there is a wider plot against the US, or, like I kind of said, copycats who want to hurt the US with impunity. There are also other concerns that the initial report of the Cuban incident was flawed, with some American neurologists in 4 separate letters to the Journal of American Medical Association pointing out what flaws they believed they had found in the original study. In one example is that the University of Pennsylvania team that first assessed the diplomats overlooked common disorders that might have made the workers feel sick, or that they dismissed psychological explanations for their symptoms. The doctors responsible for the original study defended themselves, but the neurologists stood by their criticisms. Robert Shura, a board-certified clinical neuropsychologist at Salisbury Veterans Affairs Medical Center in North Carolina, disagreed with how the University of Pennsylvania doctors interpreted cognitive tests that they ran on the victims, which contributed to the conclusion that the diplomats had concussion-like injuries caused by damage to widespread brain networks, air quotes again. For cognitive tests, it's standard practice to compare the scores with results from others in the population, with the score in the bottom 5% typically meaning that there's a problem. On the other hand, the diplomats were found to be impaired if they scored in the bottom 40% in any one of the tests. The conclusion from the neurologists was that it's more likely than not that the patients whose data was reported actually had neuropsychological profiles. In another one of the letters sent to the Journal of American Medical Association, Gerard Giannoli from Ear and Balance Institute claimed that the results of the tests were more consistent with inner ear damage than brain damage, especially since almost all the patients complained of hearing loss and balance problems. On to the more fun stuff. In September 2018, the New York Times reported that a growing fraction of doctors and scientists felt microwaves could have been the cause for the incident in Cuba and China. Their article started with an anecdote of how there were fears during the Cold War that Russia was trying to use microwave weapons for mind control, and that even in the early 2000s, America tried developing microwave weapons that could invisibly beam painfully loud booms and even spoken words into people's heads in order to disable attackers with psychological warfare. So, this could be pretty scary stuff. More and more, people were starting to agree that it was more plausible than the other possibilities, which included sonic attacks like we've already discussed, viral infections, and contagious anxiety. This comes from a growing number of analysts who cited a phenomenon known as the Frey effect, named after Alan H. Frey, who found that microwaves can trick the brain into perceiving what seemed to be ordinary sounds. This was back in the 60s. I might look into the specific effects in a future episode because it sounds really cool, but for now I'm going to stick with what was in the New York Times article. And apparently Mr. Frey was actually questioned on the case, and he said microwave radiation is being considered as a possible cause. He was questioned by, I think, the FBI or something like that. So he speculated that the whole thing might have been started by Cubans who had been allied with Russia, wanting to hurt the developing relationship between the US and Cuba, and that they used microwave strikes to do so. He might be speaking from a place of experience too, since soon after his initial discovery, he was invited by the Soviets to travel to the Soviet Academy of Sciences to visit and lecture. They even had him visit a military base outside of Moscow, taking him to various labs and discussing problems, including the neural impacts of microwaves. It gets even more interesting. Apparently, the National Security Agency gave a Washington lawyer a statement on how a foreign power, air quotes, designed to bathe a target's living quarters in microwaves, causing numerous physical effects, including a damaged nervous system, end air quotes. Someone from the NSA traveled there, I'm assuming the article's talking about to the foreign power, maybe to where they were constructing these tests or something like that, and watched as his nervous system unraveled, starting with control of his fingers. Apparently, the US has had access to similar technology since 2003, with the creation of the active denial system, which was built, and they even made a video showing how it could fire a beam that deters mobs or attackers by producing an intolerable heating sensation that causes someone to instinctively move without harming them in any way. It's actually unknown if the US actually makes use of such technology, but I feel like they would, personally. And I'm going to play this video for you guys here in the room, and if anyone wants to actually see the video, I'm going to play it after this segment, before we start talking about the more specific stuff. But if anybody at home wants to see the video, just Google the solid-state active denial technology, or search it in YouTube, actually. So, a microwave weapon could look like a satellite dish, and even be mounted to a van, a car, a boat, or a helicopter. Typical microwave arms are considered to work over relatively short distances across the length of a few rooms or maybe a block, while high-powered ones could fire beams across multiple football fields or several miles. The initial possibility of a microwave attack was brought up in January 2018 in a scientific paper by James C. Lin of the University of Illinois, a leading investigator of the Frey effect. In his paper, he details how high-intensity beams of microwaves could have caused the diplomats to experience loud noises, nausea, headaches, vertigo, and even brain tissue injury. These beams could be used to hit only the intended target while also being fired covertly. An investigation reported that a wife of a member of the embassy staff had looked outside after hearing the sounds and saw a van speeding away. In a March study, it was noted that some personnel covered their ears and experienced no sound reduction, which is, again, it goes along with the possibility of microwaves, because it doesn't matter if you cover your ears, the microwaves are activating the part of your brain, I think, I'm assuming it's how it works, that tells you that there are sounds, so that makes sense that if they were covering their ears, it wouldn't go down, the volume of the sound, so maybe that's what it was. Anyways, as of September, which is the latest article I could find on this topic, which was the New York Times article, they said that the most convincing piece of evidence for microwave technology came from Beatrice A. Goulam, who is a medical doctor and professor of medicine at the University of California, San Diego, and she published a paper that lays out medical evidence for why it could be microwave strikes. What she did was she compared the symptoms of the diplomats in Cuba to those that were reported for individuals suffering from radio frequency sickness. And apparently it was very, very close.
Okay, we just saw a video.
I'm
I feel
sober.
like, yeah,
I'm
right.
sober.
No, but I feel like I was in middle school again. You know, man,
That's why you shouldn't masturbate.
Yeah, during the Sonic, whatchamacallit. Yeah, it's like you're trying to. Oh, put that away. Wee! Running away with your wing out.
My wiener!
So yes, questions, comments.
Is that what that do was?
Directed energy weapon?
That's exactly what we're talking about. You were saying that it came in, the beams that were shooting, that's exactly what he was talking about, the beams.
But they were talking about it as a microwave weapon, not a sonic weapon, which was what you were showing me on Wikipedia.
No,
it's
Yeah,
similar
it had it on
concept.
there though. It had it on a
As a microwave weapon?
Yeah, oh, no, it was more of a the beam one that we're talking about.
Well,
the beam.
Yeah, well, but he was the beam one. The beam one he was saying was a microwave weapon. Like they could beam like sounds into people's heads. Even if you're deaf, even deaf people could hear
crazy.
a
Basically,
word.
if you have
I
a
thought it was
fucking
gonna
brain,
get
Yeah,
right?
you gotta be a
Basically.
brain dead
You scramble
zombie
your
for
brain.
it to
I
not
thought it
affect
was gonna get
No.
it. You weren't paying attention to the film where you.
Okay, so I feel dumb because when you said something, you said something about them bathing in microwaves. I'm just imagining a bunch of microwave
Like
ovens.
Tostitos and fucking.
I really was. I'm like
Yeah,
talking about a bunch of microwave
Like
ovens.
the microwave.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I got a microwave,
microwave.
That actually burns you though, right? Like you get burned, right? No, just destroying their hearing. Don't burn them. Don't burn them.
So yeah, for that part, what they were talking about, maybe you guys didn't hear as clearly, is that some foreign power they were saying had the ability to bathe a room in microwaves, which would cause somebody's nervous system to just completely unravel. I'm assuming this guy went into a room, got hooked up to some like whatever, and saw on a monitor, saw his nervous system just coming completely undone from the microwaves. Is what I'm assuming happened there. But
Is it permanent or?
Yeah.
that's the thing
what
I don't know.
happens there, though?
So-
I mean, yeah, when your nerves.
The
system-
U.S. stuff they were saying that's not permanent. So the video that I showed you guys the solid state whatever.
Yeah, that was a
That's-
little different from.
So-
What they were
is it
saying
like-
is that's not permanent, but I think the ones from the Russian ones could be permanent if it's brain damage is caused. I think that's what it is. It's when there's like brain
Oh my
tearing
God.
is what they said.
Okay, so is it like the U.S. one is just like an experience, and then the other one was trying to fucking like fuck somebody up over there, and
They made it sound like they were really testing it out on.
Like
They're
an
using us as
experience,
guinea
right?
pigs since we're
Yeah.
enemy
That's what it's
operators.
possible.
That's what it made it sound like. But
See, yeah, because I had
I
read the
believe in
same thing.
every conspiracy, every conspiracy.
But see, I had read the same thing too. Like actually, they said the U.S. embassy was getting.
Yeah.
That's what one I read. I didn't
Yeah,
know
that's
about
what
the
it was.
Canadians also that they were getting.
Yeah.
But they said, whoa, Canadians are our top priority tourist attraction around here. So
See, that-
they
that's-
had to leave them alone. So
That's what makes me wonder if it really was actually a microwave weapon, because it almost seems more like an accident. Like, why would the Canadian embassy members be affected by it unless it was accidental? out of the stuff that I read, the only possibility that was accidental was 2 listening devices placed too closely together. That's the only thing I could think of.
So what were they trying to do with what was their excuse? Placed too close together.
That was
They were X-rays, right? They were like what
no. Well, those are 2 different things. Those are 2 different things. One of the possible things that could have caused a sonic attack of some sort was 2 listening devices placed too closely together. And then somebody else was thinking it could have been a microwave attack, which would have been intentional. The sonic one, they're thinking, would have been unintentional.
There you go. Yeah, they were just trying to.
They were just trying to eavesdrop. They were just trying to eavesdrop. And in either case, Cuba's not going to admit it because they don't want to admit to
nothing happened.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always a cover-up.
Right.
They really want zombies in this world, man.
You know what?
Fuck with their brains some more.
I know it's fake, but we have a stupid when we log into our Wi-Fi. There's one that's called like CIA.
Oh yeah, surveillance van.
I'm like, nope, not gonna fuck with you. Not gonna fall for it.
Like the neighbor probably knows their Wi-Fi.
You almost had me until I saw the surveillance.
And then our computer shuts off right now.
If it were just van, I was like, I think that's it.
Regular van.
Man, that was the thing that freaked me out the most, though, is that like a microwave weapon could be attached to any old vehicle and used anywhere. Like that was the thing that messed me up the most.
We should try it on our vehicle. We can put our microwave on top of it. Open the door, make it turn on.
Popcorn in the
microwave.
Oh, you know what though? I guess it kind of reminds me. Okay, like I know you guys seen the old schools Godzilla's, maybe the 70s or 60s, where they had those rays that shot out that.
Oh,
you know,
when they're
and then you just but they hit Godzilla and he's always falling off of one foot. And it's like they're bombarding him with those. I wonder if they,
Maybe.
They're fucking with his brain.
Yeah, because that's a big one there, boy. Shit. And how come everybody around him isn't? It's built for Godzilla. Everybody around him is all cool and all the cool. Like, no, I can't hear a thing.
No, they're not.
I heard it fall. The 2 Mothra girls, the twins.
They just kept singing. They don't care.
Caesar, Caesar. King Caesar. I can't even do the song.
I don't
I'm
think
sorry.
they're like the lead speech.
That's what.
Yeah, what's up with that?
And their mouth is moving in a different direction.
That's not okay.
And the little boy always seems so happy.
Yeah, and the little shorts. Why do they make them look like girls, man? Yeah, that guy in that Carmen Gill would have loved that shit.
I know, right?
Hey kid, there's something wrong with your vertigo.
Man.
Well, that's some crazy stuff, though.
That is, man. And you know what? I'm sure, honestly, there's some bullshit that's made like that already. I mean,
There's a lot
Ian
of
is
stuff we just
scratching
don't
the
know about.
surface of it, man. So if you start seeing surveillance vans around your house, start talking about recipes. Some recipes, right?
And do not accept a ride.
See, the hard part too is that I got this from 5 different articles. All of that I pulled from 5 different articles.
Yeah.
So it's public knowledge. So I don't think I have to worry about like vans showing up.
Yeah, but you did have a couple of comments that were your own. You were like, I think it could be this or that. I'm like, that's probably the worst thing you could have did.
Hey, can we cut that off? Cut that out?
Yeah, we'll edit that. Eh?
Knows too
Ian
much.
has left
That
the
fat guy
show.
knows too much about making popcorn. Anyway, man, Ian, awesome job, man.
Yeah, good job, man.
Thank you. Maybe
Made
next
us
time.
think.
I need another beer.
I do too. I sure do,
I
man.
got 4
Maybe a
here.
drink.
Yeah, I poured half this bottle, so.
We heard the stirring.
Maybe
Oh,
next
man.
time I'll do more about the Frey effect because that was really intriguing to me. Just like the science behind why our brains are affected that way by microwaves. I really want to look into that.
That's cool.
So like,
maybe next time.
you need to wear like an aluminum foil cap or.
Maybe
We're gonna have to start wearing them when we
tin
do
foil.
the
whatever
show.
they call it. Yeah.
Yes, Mike, do you have your money dues? That's an inside joke.
Yeah.
You never get that.
Air quotes.
That's from
Air quotes.
Air quotes, yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to throw my insight
from
here.
one of the teachers that we all had. Did you have?
No.
Robert, you had that guy, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have that guy. I didn't have that guy. I did have a half-day
School
program.
Yeah, we both had a
Yeah, but because we were working.
Work program.
I was gonna say because then we had to go by the expressway and pick up trash, right?
Was that for extra money or?
No, they just let you out. It was
community service.
All y'all had community service?
at one point or another, yeah.
I like to drink, okay?
Too many absences.
Me and my siblings. Just kidding.
All of us out there.
I know, right? There was 9 of y'all out there.
I think me, Melissa, and Steve had that same guy. If I'm not mistaken, it's he just had these weird. He had these big old frog eyes, man, hardcore, and it's not really funny though. we never paid our money because you're supposed to pay to be in this program. What it is, you get off half a day of school, and so you can go to work, but you got to get a job. And we get a job, and we all did it. Rob got a job, but I don't know if you had it.
No, I didn't have to pay, but it's weird that you were saying that. But I did remember they did. Man, everybody always got their hand out, man.
They're called money dues.
Well, let you leave home early, and you got a job.
You for it every day.
Yeah, we never paid it. We never did.
And y'all feel comfortable staying there?
We didn't care. Man. We're like,
You're gonna have to give me something.
I remember all the time.
Don't make me go all the way back to the Carmen Gia with nothing.
He tried to be discreet. He called me to the front of to his desk. David, do you have your money dues? And I'm like,
So y'all never?
It's like, no. It's like I had to buy a 6-pack last week, so I had to pay.
David, do you have your something dues?
It's almost the end of the year. You got 2 more weeks, and you've been telling me this for the past 6 months. And I'm like, well, I'll get it to you, man. I'll get it.
Where would that money be going, though, right? I mean, what are they doing it for real? I know it's not him. It's probably the principal telling his ass.
Yeah.
So he could go to the horse races or some bullshit like that. He probably, that guy, I did not get my money dues. the principal, bitch, I didn't ask you if you had them from them. I just said, where's my money dues?
That's what I'm saying. He probably had to pay out of
He
pocket.
had to pay out of his pocket, right? Pinche David.
That's getting
Pinche Limon said, never got no money.
I don't know why he kept letting you in.
I know. He's like, oh god dang, another one.
That's gonna be like all the other
ones.
Awesome, everything. Thanks, Mike, for those stories.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to have you back, Mike. You gotta do this,
thank you, man. Anytime.
No, yeah, I love fucking having you guys.
No, there's a tear. Thank you again for the t-shirt.
Not me. Jazz.
Speaking of t-shirts, Jasmine, I probably should have mentioned this before we went on air, but we'd love to sell some of our shirts online.
Yeah, so if you guys send us your size and
you want to order a shirt, we can post them online.
if it's an XL or larger.
We got your hookup right here.
Yes, we're the only ones that
We
do
don't discriminate.
quadruple X's. Blanket size, we got them.
Yeah, we definitely let us know if you're interested in a shirt. We can make it happen.
That's right.
Also, we're hoping to get, here we go again. Mike brought us an actual awesome photo. We're trying to get more photos in also, but on top of those photos, we need more stories. Well, more stories, man. We'd love to have some more. We got some on the back burner. We'd love to have some more. We love hearing y'all's stories. We got some pretty decent ones tonight, and we love them. We got more, but we want more because we're
never
greedy.
enough.
Yeah, definitely send us your stories and we'll credit them to you with the picture.
If you have a picture.
Yes, send pictures, please. Yeah, we will put them up online. If
you have footage, even better.
Oh man, awesome! Yeah, yes, definitely.
If you can send it to us live, that's even better.
While it's happening.
At our house.
What's that number, Rob?
That number, if you want to call in and give us your story, the number is 210-901-8666. And remember, folks, that's a 3-minute call. If you run out of time while you're telling your story, please call back and just tell us this is part 2 of your story you're calling, and we will get that bad boy running. We can edit it, so don't be shy. Call in. Please tell us your story. If you're the shy type that doesn't like your voice, we got an email. You can call in. Call in. You can write us into this. What's the email, Dave? I'm sorry. Yeah, just let's do that.
So if you want to write in your story, you can write into Rigor Mortis Paranormal at gmail.com, or you can visit us online on our website at rigormortisparanormal.com and visit the Submit a Story section and put your story in there. However you can, just make sure you get it to us. Also, you can listen to us on Stitcher,
Facebook,
Spotify, YouTube, iTunes,
Instagram.
Wait,
we're putting them on Instagram now?
And,
Oh yeah.
Everything.
Actually, yeah, we
Fuck
gotta.
it.
No. Well, we're not on Instagram. I mean,
Just
we are on
find us
Instagram,
there.
but yeah, you can't
There's
listen to
links.
us there. But also, anybody, I mean, we got a couple of, we got a few people on Patreon. We'd love to get more to help fund our beer, computers. And
What do
all
we
that
have,
other
like
good stuff.
$5?
We got maybe $5.
$7
Something. We got $4 a month is what we're getting right now. Every month,
Well, it builds interest, you know. No, but it can help us with our actually with our software and our computers and stuff like this. We enjoy, it will hopefully, but we enjoy doing this. Really, we do enjoy doing this, but it does take a little bit of money. So, fellas, we're begging.
But yeah, if you can, again, it's patreon.com/Rigor Mortis Paranormal. If you can help out, we'd love it. If not, that's all right. Keep listening anyway.
We still love you anyway.
Yes,
right
yes,
on.
yes, yes.
With that being said, thanks. Have a great night and good night.
Peace out.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
There it is.